Hi, this is Jenny Langley, author of the New Maudsley Training Manual. In this video, we're looking at exercise 5.4 from module 5, and it's all about the advanced communication skills, which are summarised by the acronym DEARS. And these are the 5 key principles around advanced motivational interviewing skills. Okay, so it can get really confusing, can't it? Because already in module 4, we've introduced the concept of less is more, so less talking, more listening. We've also introduced the concept of oars, which is rowing alongside the sufferer at the pace which is comfortable for them. And now we're introducing another acronym, DEARS, and on top of that, we've introduced the concept of attending to the emotions, so ALVs. So I've just made this kind of summary sheet that shows how they all link together. Now with OARS, which is the open questions, affirmations, reflections and summaries, we had this kind of guideline that for every one open question, you try as a carer to give back 3 affirmations or reflections, and that means that you're really attending to what the sufferer is saying, you're really listening, you're really trying to show compassion and understand. And then with ALVs and DEARS, so ALVs is attending to the emotions, and then DEARS is the advanced concepts that we're going to look at in this module. These are all a subset of the affirmations and reflections. So all we're doing is we're adding to your toolbox of the types of affirmations and reflections that you might be able to give your loved one when you're having a motivational conversation with them. So I hope that helps. Okay, so let's have a look at each one. So D is for developing discrepancy. So this is basically saying where you are now does not really fit in with where you want to be in the future. But of course you want to say it in a really non-judgmental and really sort of calm and compassionate way. So there's lots of ways of doing that. There's a couple of ground rules. We try not to say but, so you wouldn't say, I know you want to go to university, but you're unable to stick with your meal plan. So you'd say, I know you want to go to university, and I've noticed that at the moment you're struggling to stick with your meal plan. And then you might use ALVs. You might say, you seem nervous, anxious, scared, etc., etc. How can I help you? So that's developing discrepancy. So remember the fable of the sun and the wind. So change comes about through discomfort. So the wind blew and blew and blew. The man held his coat tighter. The sun shone down and was calm and gentle, but the man relaxed. He didn't take his coat off, and what the sun did was turn the heat up a bit to help the man make the decision to take the coat off. So that change comes about through a little bit of discomfort, and that's what you're doing by developing discrepancy. You're just sowing the seed that there's a little bit of discomfort in where they are now compared to where they want to be in the future. Expressing empathy. So we've talked a lot about empathy in all the previous exercises and the videos. Often people with eating disorders feel that nobody understands them, that they're totally alone. You just don't get it, leave me alone, I'm fine. And so expressing empathy is really important as, again, like drip feeding. So always acknowledging the challenges of change, always noticing the emotions. So really, really stepping in to the sufferer's shoes. And remember the metaphor of the red balloon and the blue balloon and what it feels like when your red balloon is all really, really blown up. Okay, amplifying ambivalence is a little bit like developing discrepancy, but it's just acknowledging that there might be a slight sort of discomfort from the loved one sticking with their eating disorder. So it might be something like, it must be frustrating for you. That's a really good way to amplify ambivalence. It must be really frustrating for you that you couldn't go and join in with your friends to do whatever it is, going to a festival or going to the cinema, because you are so wrapped up at the moment in all of your current schedules and rigid rules and that sort of thing. But obviously said with no judgment and calmly and compassionately. Rolling with resistance, we've covered previously when we talked about the reassurance trap. But as you know, if you have a loved one with an eating disorder, emotions can really flare up, really difficult to have any sort of sensible conversation when emotions are really, really at that high level. So this is the ability to be able to step back, give the loved one some space, maybe bring in some sort of distraction, but not trying to have a really complex conversation with the loved one when they're at a really high state of emotion. And also acknowledging that as a carer, you can't have that conversation either when you're feeling so sort of wound up like that. And then supporting self-efficacy really fits in with the affirmations of Oars. So you're conveying that you really believe that they have the wherewithal within them to cope in the big wide world as they go through that recovery process. Okay, let's have a look at an example. So Andrew is 14, he's a fabulous all-rounder, he's really popular with his peers, he does lots of sports, drama, music, he's in high academic sets, etc., etc. He appears very confident and happy, but some of his friends have noticed that he's become interested in reading about self-harm. And obviously there's a big overlap, isn't there, between eating disorders and self-harm. And many schools are really seeking training now for staff around self-harm because it's become a much more commonly used coping strategy within teenagers. The friends decide to talk to Andrew's mum. His mum asks if he's okay, and he's adamant that he's fine. He just says, I'm just intrigued that celebrities like David Beckham find that they need to turn to these coping strategies because they're under so much pressure. So how could you use some of these advanced techniques? So develop discrepancy. I know, Andrew, that you love doing all these different activities, and I've noticed that you seem to be struggling to fit everything in and you seem anxious. So you're not saying I'm worried about you self-harming, you're coming at it at a much more gentler, less judgmental approach. Expressing empathy. I understand, Andrew, that you enjoy all of these activities. You have so much talent for so many different things. It must be hard to prioritise. I know many students wouldn't be able to do that, so you can shower him with affirmations. Amplifying ambivalence. It must be annoying and frustrating that most of your friends have spare time to relax at the weekend. Do they have to prioritise or perhaps let a few things go? I know you wanted to go to the rugby at the weekend and you were unable to because of the drama rehearsals. And obviously I know you love the drama rehearsals, but you're sowing the seed that there's some sort of disharmony going on there. Rolling with resistance. So Andrew, I can see that you think I'm making a fuss about nothing. It must be annoying for you. I'm just concerned about you taking so much on and getting exhausted. Let's focus on something else. So distraction, come back to this later. So we have this Coke bottle analogy for rolling with resistance. So imagine, I do this in schools all the time. So imagine I'm holding a bottle of Coke and I've really shaken it up, and then I ask you to take the lid off without spilling a drop. So how are you going to do that? Obviously you've got to do it really carefully. So you'll be super sensitive to the sound of the pressure. So you'll turn it a little bit. You can hear the pressure. You might turn it back a bit. You might just wait for it to calm down. And then gradually, as the pressure releases, you'll eventually be able to take the lid off the Coke bottle. And it's the same when somebody is really, really highly anxious. Maybe they need some space or they need a distraction. But the most important thing when somebody is like that is to say, I can see that you're really anxious. You need a bit of space. Let's talk about this later. Let's come back to this later. I'm here for you. I really care. And supporting self-efficacy with Andrew might be, you're incredibly organised and resourceful. You fit so many things in. I don't imagine many of your friends will be able to do that. Or you've really thought long and hard about carrying on with all your activities and planning for that. Or I can see that sometimes you struggle to fit everything in, and sometimes things don't go according to plan. I admire the way you can pick yourself up. So really sort of acknowledging that Andrew is a resilient person at the moment, but you're just acknowledging that maybe he's under so much pressure that he could trip over. In this schematic, we're just showing that the DEARS can be used at any of the stages of change. So, you know, rolling with resistance when they're in pre-contemplation, amplify ambivalence or develop discrepancy when they're in contemplation, etc., etc. Okay, so let's have a look at the second example. So Gemma is 14, really wants to go on the school trip to Spain in the spring term. School requires her to get signed off by the consultant to be able to go, and she has a meal plan designed to enable her to gain the requisite amount of weight in plenty of time. But she's finding it very, very difficult. So imagine your dad talking to Gemma. So developing discrepancy. Gemma, I know you want to go on the school trip and yet you're struggling to stick with your meal plan. And Gemma might reply, it's so hard, Dad. I want to go. I know what I have to do. But when I see that huge plate of food with a gazillion calories, I just can't do it. So that's fair enough, isn't it? I can't do it. It's just too much. So Dad then might go straight into expressing empathy. Gemma, I can see this is really hard for you. And now that I've learned more about your illness, I'm starting to understand more about the power of your illness or the eating disorder voice. I'm so proud of you. I know you're determined to do this. So a shower of affirmations. And Gemma might say, yes, Dad, I am determined, but it is just so hard. Then Dad might amplify ambivalence. I know you really want to go on the school trip to Spain and you can see all your friends making their plans. I want you to go too. And he might say, it must be so frustrating for you. Let me help you. So we're in it together. And Gemma might say, thanks, Dad, I really do want to go to Spain. And then Dad might roll with resistance. I can see that this week, Gemma, has been really hard for you. Why don't we take a break, go to the beach with the dog this weekend and just relax? And then Gemma might go, yeah, that might be nice, Dad, so we can just take the heat out of the moment. And then supporting self-efficacy. So Dad might give her a shower of affirmations. You're determined, courageous. I know you really want to stick with your meal plan. Acknowledging that the eating sort of voice might be chattering in her ear. And the belief, Dad's saying, I know you can do it. He might refer back. You know, you managed to get the consultant to sign you off for the theatre trip last month. I really believe you will get through this tough patch and get permission again. I love you so much, Gemma. I absolutely believe you have the strength and resources to get through these difficult times. Gemma might respond, thanks, Dad. I don't always share your confidence and it helps when you keep reminding me about things I've already achieved. And certainly sufferers report back that it's so much better when the carers convey belief and trust and respect in the loved one's ability to make steps forward, rather than always sort of treading on eggshells and being overly cautious and overprotective like sort of kangaroo. So having gone through this exercise, we ask carers how Gemma might feel if her dad communicates her with this sort of dears and ors approach, or how would it be different if he took more of a rhino-like approach? So he might say, Gemma, you know you have to stick to your meal plan, and if you don't, then you won't be allowed to go on the school trip. I think you might try harder, which is kind of a quick fix, isn't it? It's shorter than the whole going through the dears thing, but it doesn't convey so much empathy. Gemma's likely to feel that she might be being criticised and judged. So by using dears, Dad is showing he's prepared to talk, to listen, he has empathy, he's looking for green shoots, he's praising Gemma, and he truly conveys his belief that she can do it. So it's a very respectful approach. So I hope you found that useful. Again, remember that summary where it brings it all together. So dears and elves are kind of a subset of ors, so you don't get too sort of overwhelmed. All of these worksheets and the accompanying videos can be found at www.newmaudslaycarers-kent.co.uk. Thank you.